Hello and welcome to Integrating Eros. I'm your host, Julian Marcus, and this is an introduction to the second part in the series of the sacred dance of Shiva and Shakti Temple Talks series with Pete Bampton, my colleague who also lives in Portugal. This is brought to you from central Portugal, and yesterday we had a lovely call with a group of people from all over the world, some of which were also present in Portugal at the time, interestingly, and we discussed the decoupling of partnered intimacy, partner engagement from erotic touch. For the purpose of the discussion, it was interesting to explore from the practice of sexological bodywork, where the practitioners in service of the client or student's learning, somatic learning, which could be equated to human healing, personal growth, transformation or awakening, and looking at it through the lens of how can this be in a personal relationship, serving of deeper intimacy and connection. We looked at themes of taking and serving from The Wheel of Consent by Dr. Betty Martin. And we heard from men and women, practitioners and public, about their experiences and growth with these themes, embodying and becoming more comfortable with the vulnerability of noticing what we want and finding practices that help us explore that, and then bringing that into partnered relationship. So I hope you enjoy the recording. The next call will be next week. It'll be the 8th of February. I won't be there for that one, but Pete will be hosting. It's the same Zoom code that you'll find below this video and on our Facebook pages and websites. So Pete Bampton is the founder of Fire of the Heart and the author of the book with the same title, and he's running men's groups with the same title, and was the co-founder of the Awakened Life project here in Portugal that ran for 13 or 15 years, I believe, and was a conscious experiment with conscious community and awakening on the human collective level. So I hope you enjoy this recording, and if you have any questions or would like to join one of our future calls, please get in touch or use the Zoom code provided. And we have a retreat together the 28th of March to the 2nd of April in southern Portugal at Mont Mariposa Retreat Centre. And the details for that are on fireoftheheart.net or relationalbodywork.org, which is my website. I look forward to seeing you on a future call.
Hola, mi amor.
Hello.
Hey, Anna, good to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Julian.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hey, Nell. Welcome, Martin.
Hi there.
My nearest neighbour.
Hey, Krista. Good to see you, man.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah, just curious. I thought I got the email. I thought I'd give it a try.
Cool.
Welcome. Welcome, Lucy Airedale. Hello.
Hello.
And Mariana's there from Cyprus. Sorry, Lucy.
Where are you?
Portugal.
Oh, Lucy. Ah.
Martin!
Oh. I kind of find out what this here Templa's all about.
Yeah, what is it all about?
What's all this here tantra malarkey then, Martin?
Exactly. That's all I want to know.
Oh, yeah, we got it full figured out for you. Don't worry.
Brilliant.
Great to see everyone. So
Nothing.
some other people might trickle in, but we're a good number. So we have Lucy, who's a body poet, and Anel is a new body poet, and here's Paul. So the proposal for tonight is to open with a community body poem, and then to go into this discussion and practice. And I wanted to put to the group a little idea that some of you might be familiar with, but most of you probably aren't. And then Peter and the rest of us can discuss Pete. I had a little voice in my head that edited that and was like, Pete. Pete. Well, offer some reflections on a personal level, and we can all unpack it a bit and share our experiences in this melting pot. How does that sound for everyone?
Mm.
Mhm.
Positive sounds of
Seems to be
consent.
some grunts of approval.
Yeah.
Eating as well.
Semi-verbal consent, that, a grunt. So I'm recording it. I intend to share it to the YouTube channel for people to catch up. And Pete, not Peter, and I will be running a retreat together. And this isn't a marketing call. This is a practice and discussion call. But I realized last time, Pete, I don't think we even mentioned that we are doing a retreat. So we are. It's the end of March. It's in southern Portugal.
It's over Easter.
It's over Easter, yeah. 28th of March to the 2nd of April. The details are on both our sites. We might say something about that later if people have questions, but I thought I'd mention it because we didn't even mention it last time. So body poem, this works best if we are well supported in our chair or leant against a wall or lay on the ground. So I invite you now to get comfortable for this. And this practice will be between 7 and 10, maximum 15 minutes. So if you support your torso, this helps the nervous system to come into parasympathetic and out of doing and into rest and digest. So we're going to be exploring our felt sense pole of our being with this. So the encouragement is to get really comfortable, the invitation. And we can do something really non-agendered and feel into and release the body to the in-breath, release the body to the out-breath without controlling or trying to do any particular breathing practice. How can we release to the breath, both inhalation and exhalation? If we just set that intention, we notice perhaps that our breath is getting deeper, but it's not an agenda to become deeper. As we invite more space to the inhalation and exhalation, we're likely to take ourselves into some down regulation. And I'm going to invite you from this down regulated place, if you're there, to feel into these different polarities we're sharing about tonight. And first noticing the length of your body from the tip of the head, top of the crown, down to the feet. Can you get a felt sense of your length? And as we've been tuning into the breath, can you get a sense of the depth of this breath, where it births from and returns to? We can be curious, where is the center of my awareness right now? Has it moved? As we came into the call, saw all of the other smiling, lovely faces. Maybe we're more in our head. Are your eyes now closed, or soft gaze? What's changed? And perhaps where are we looking out from now? Are we in a heart space, belly, pelvis? Or are we still in the head wondering what's going on? All of these experiences and whatever you're feeling is welcome. And we could say, if we're feeling within, that we're awakening the feminine pole of our being, the quality of felt relationship. And if it feels supportive to you, you can offer an inner smile to this inner felt feeling of aliveness, perhaps. and allowing this body poem to be an I want body poem with full permission planted deep down in the inner earth of our body being. From this feminine pole of awareness, what am I wanting? What desire is rising up naturally? Is it on a comfort or needs level? Are you hungry? Are you a bit tired? Just noticing. And witnessing it coming up. And it would be lovely if you can dance the dance between this feminine noticing and engaging and type it in the chat. So you might want to stay there a few more moments to harvest a few. And then I invite you to come and type into the chat what wants want to express with full permission, radical acceptance, welcoming them. They might be broader life, broad wants of grander things than feeling a little bit hungry. Whatever's there that you feel to share, please share in the chat, and we'll make a community body poem of our felt desires emerging from our felt sense.
Mm.
Mm. And if you're not getting an I want, then noticing and sharing words that come close to describing what you're noticing in this inner landscape right now. Doesn't have to be a want. I want stillness. I want to dance. I appreciate this stillness. I want quiet and withdraw from the racing mind. I want to run on sand, to appreciate stillness. I want to dance. I want stillness. I appreciate the stillness. I want quiet and withdraw from the racing mind. I want to relax into the body. I want stillness. I want to be in water. I want delicious, exquisite touch. I want to relax into the body. I want to quiet and to withdraw from the racing mind. I want to be a husbanding presence for the feminine to open, flower and flow. I feel very connected and healing myself. I want a large, warm bath. I want to be in water. I feel very connected and healing. I want a large, warm bath. I want to be in water. I want to dance. I want deliciously exquisite touch. I want to relax in my body. I feel very connected and healing myself. I want to be able to really relax my shoulders. I want to be led. I want to lead and be led by love. I want to feel more in connection to myself. I want to be in water. I want the delicious, exquisite touch. I want my new home to be found by me. I want to be the husbanding presence for the feminine to open, flower, and flow. Delicious, exquisite touch. Relax into the body. Quiet and withdrawn from my racing mind. I want to run on the sand. I want to dance. I want to appreciate stillness. I want to be able to relax my shoulders. And I want to lead and be led by love. I want to feel more in connection with myself. I want my new home to be found by me. I want to be my best friend. I want to sing the voice of my soul. I want to be my best friend. I want to find my new home. I want my new home to be found by me. And just feeling into your own words as you hear them read back and the words of the others. And feeling in this inner space, this feminine pole perhaps of our being, the harmony and the alchemy of all the different words and statements, feelings and wants as they resonate in your inner space, in the silence and listening and receptivity there. I want to merge in the fountain of love bliss, to sing the voice of my soul. I want to be my best friend. I want my new home to be found by me. I want to feel more in connection to myself, to lead and be led by love, to be able to relax my shoulders. I want a large warm bath. I want to feel I feel very connected and healing myself. I want to be a husbanding presence for the feminine to open, flower, and flow. I want to be in the water. I want to relax in the body. I want delicious, exquisite touch. I want quiet and withdraw from the racing mind. I want to run on the sand, to dance. I appreciate this stillness. I want stillness. I appreciate the stillness. I want to merge into the fountain of love bliss. I feel freedom not identifying with my migraine. I want to be my best friend. Connection, love, relax, warm, large bath, healing myself. Presence, feminine opening, flowering and flowing, water, exquisite touch, relax into the body, quiet, withdraw from the racing mind. Led and leading by love. Home, the voice of my soul. Merge, love bliss. Freedom with my migraine. There is a lover. I want to know who they are. I want to be my best friend. Tantric lovers. There is a lover. I want to know who they are. Love bliss, merge, tantric lovers. Connection. Lead and led by love. I want my full health. Relax. Full. Fountain. Voice of my soul. Fountain of love bliss. There is a lover. I want to know who they are. Tantric lovers. My full health. Now just invite you in the chat to share some words that come close to the experience of tuning in, expressing, hearing yours and the other words back. What are you noticing inside as you sit, stand, lie down? I'm touched. Sex, laughter, and God realization. The never-ending love play, not foreplay. Radiant smile. How is it to be touched by others' words, desires, longing, and inner state? Appreciating these beautiful shares, community in presence and stillness, joy, expansion of awareness. I'm touched, radiant smile, sex, laughter, and God consciousness. One being through the many, yearning to commune with itself. Joy, expansion of awareness, community in presence and stillness. Appreciate these beautiful shares, radiant smile, I'm touched. Thank you. Thank you everyone for sharing. One being through many, yearning to commune with itself. Joy, expansion of awareness, radiant smile, I'm touched. Appreciation of these beautiful shares, community in presence and stillness. One being through the many, yearning to commune with itself. Well done, everybody. Lovely. So last call, we had a friend of ours, Pete and I, another Peter, little John Cook. And he's another Tantra teacher. And he brought a topic about, well, I brought it up and then I asked him to speak. Because in some traditions of Tantra, before marriage, there was a period where tantric adepts would, in some traditions, meet with non-romantic partners to practice tantric rituals and deepen their understanding of their energetics, etc., without romantic entanglement. And we talked on the other call, which is available to watch on replay, about the dance of psycho-spiritual, what do you call it, Pete? Psycho-spiritual relating?
I can't remember what I called it.
Emotional.
Emotional sexual?
Emotional sexual, that's what it was. And Pete and I were discussing what we would open into discussion with this week. And that came back to me because I realized I hadn't expressed something. So I would like to describe something that comes from the lineage of sexological bodywork in view of, and then hand over to Pete and the group as to how this might enrich or change our perspectives in our intimate relationships or emotional sexual relationships. So in sexological bodywork, we're in service to the learning, and in a tantric context, we could say the awakening of the individual. So the practitioners in service to supporting that individual to find their learning edge, their yearning desire to evolve as a human being. And in that modality, if there's erotic touch, it's one-way touch with the practitioner wearing gloves as there's a hygiene reason for that, but there's also a reason to affirm that this touch is for you. So the first part of those kind of sessions, we, if we're practicing that in the client role, help the person to explore what they want. And one of the ways I do that is with the I Want body poem, in a slightly different way, but similar, that we've just done as a community. And then we help the client to have choices. Some of those choices may include, if they're ready for and can communicate clearly, one-way erotic touch. So this discussion is about decoupling partner engagement with, and it doesn't have to be the discussion of the whole evening at all, but I wonder what people's reflection. Some of you are sexological body workers here or have done similar work. When we work with the eros energy and we work with sexual, the pelvis and sexual organs, for the awakening or education of the client, rather than partner engagement where, ooh, it's pleasurable, it's for me. There might be the indirect route of pleasure where I'm pleasing my partner, they smile or make nice sounds and I feel good. That's typical partner engagement. And often in body work, that's where limerence can happen. Tantric massage, sexological body work, or even any type of massage. When we feel relaxed, safe and trusting, oxytocin is released, and there's often this closeness and presence and can be trance-like state. So that's very useful for intimacy. And it also can bring projected feelings of, projected feelings of attachment or limerence, love-like feelings projected upon the practitioner. So in sexological bodywork, there's an intention to work out of attraction or repulsion. So in between these polarities of, oh, I'm really attracted to this person, so I want to touch them. And separate from, oh, I'm not attracted to this person, so I can't help them or touch them. I don't want to touch them. So between those places, we can find service if we're really present with them despite attraction or repulsion. With our partner, we often are in a partner engagement role, flowing between giving, receiving, and it all gets tangled up. But my point is that when we're in service to the other really cleanly, because the touch is for them, they've chosen it, they're clear about it, they know why and what they want to learn, develop, experience, open in themselves, and we're in service to that. So that was a topic that I think is quite interesting when we take it out of the context of being in services. We don't call ourselves therapists as sexological body workers, but in a clinical, you could say therapeutic setting, and place it in the heart of a loving relationship. So can I hand over to you, Pete, to follow up on that and then open to others?
Yeah. I'll just say a little bit. Earlier on when Julian and I often call him Marcus as well.
Got you back on the Peter now.
We were going back and forth with messages. So what should we do as a theme tonight? And so I had heard of sexological bodywork, but didn't know much about it. And he basically described to me what he just shared with you all now, and about the ethical guidelines and the context in which sexological bodywork occurs. And I was very impressed, first of all, that I'm very happy that such a modality is existing and thriving, because of course we all know, we all of us to some degree are traumatized by growing up in this world. Some of us have had an easier time than others, but some people, and perhaps, at least in my experience, it tends to be women more than men, but often there's been a lot of sexual trauma that's that we might have experienced in our early sexual life or even later. That is, we cannot fully understand and release just through a kind of verbal inquiry. You know, it's obviously there's an emotional levels, there's physical levels. So I think the development and the increasing interest in these modalities is obviously a great leap forward for woman and mankind in this Western culture where we've been inoculated with this mind-body split, you know, that is the root and cause of so much dysfunction, distortion, suffering. But then also what it sparked for me, hearing what Julian has just described, was that I feel there's some resonance between that orientation that can happen in a obviously a more a clinical, let's call it clinical. It's a bit of a cold word, but for want of a better one, a setting, and then within and to compare that or feel into what would it mean to bring the essence of that into a romantic emotional sexual, you know, partnership. And why this resonated with me is because I feel, and it's definitely my own experience, that to begin to discover and experience whatever our full potential might be in terms of love and sexual intimacy, you know, to be able to tap into a kind of ecstasy and ever newness that's fundamentally free from personal wanting. For example, last time in the last session we had, I brought forward this metaphor, which I often like to use, of two cups. So I've got one here. Imagine there's one in my hand. Most people, they're a half full cup. And often, you know, because the sexual romantic arena has kind of become God in Western culture, a lot of people are looking to be fulfilled, you know, to have their cup filled in the arms of another, of a lover. And but the limit of that dynamic is that there's wanting, there's needing, and there's what that brings into the sexual occasion then is a certain tension of desire. Whereas I think these guidelines that Julian was describing, like this touch is for you, to be fully available and present for your lover without any destination, without any idea that it has to go a certain way, without any need to release your own stress or tension. It brings into the intimacy, into the occasion, a transparency to what we could call spirit, or our deepest, already free and full nature. So when we were just doing the body poem at the end, and Julian was asking, you know, what does that bring forward? What I just felt in hearing everybody's sharings was this radiant smile. It was this fullness. I felt all of us in different ways and through different expressions were dropping into, surrendering into our inherent fullness, and that sense of vulnerability, of being touched by each other and letting each other in, and through that maybe shedding whatever stresses or frustrations or apparently unfulfilled desires we might have been carrying. And it just struck me when we were all together there, and I actually wrote in the comments, I said one being yearning to commune with itself. And it struck me that that's really the disposition. I think if we're interested in a higher harmonic of intimate relating, that we want to come into, so that when we would come into the sexual occasion, into the embrace, we're already in that radiant smile. We're givers. We're entering into the occasion as givers and not takers. And then in my experience, one can come into contact even with obviously if we're in partnerships for a long time, even many years, there's all kinds of levels at which we get to know each other very well. But it's it's being receptive to this deep surrender. It brings an ever new quality, both to our day-to-day relating, but also to our sexual intimacy. And I think it's got a lot to do, this potential, with what some of these principles of sexological bodywork bring forward, of decoupling or uncoupling, as Julian was saying, the magnification of our eros, from the more personal, romantic dimension of wanting, for me. So I can definitely say, as a man, and I've done a lot of work with men in men's groups over many years, and I think one of the most important challenges for men in terms of integrating spirit in bodily, becoming an embodiment of spirit of true self, is learning how to. I often use this metaphor. I say, like, the sexual impulse, and particularly for men, or not only, it's like a wild horse. It's the most powerful energy and impulse that we experience. So the way I put it is an unconscious man is basically being taken for a ride by the wild horse, or feels a victim of the wild horse, because he feels that force is more powerful than he is. And so to the degree that we're unconscious, we're likely not only to create karma and suffering for ourselves and potential partners, but we won't be able to bring that sensitivity and surrender and presence into our emotional sexual relationship. But at the same time, of course, we don't want to tame the horse, which tends to be more you could say, more traditional spiritual approach, either to tie it up and repress it completely, or somehow be in a disposition of I'm above that, I'm on top of that, some sort of fearful or not fully embracing disposition. So the metaphor I like to use is learning to ride the wild horse and harness that energy and the passion and love, desire, in other words, not being afraid of the power of that impulse and our own animal instinctual nature, but at the same time, to the degree that we can take ourself out of it, our own selfish wanting out of it, then potentially it can magnify eros and lead to an erotic and sexual intimacy and occasion where we're in service. We can husband the feminine.
Pete, one way you can distill and apologize for my tiredness. I've had very little sleep last night. I was full of energy. Trying to get it in balance these days is too much of it. So one practice that you can ask is who's doing and who's it for? This comes from the wheel of consent. So what you're sharing there, Pete, and what I was trying to share in simplest form is, rather than shaming and being like, oh, I need to work on myself to be a better man or a better woman, which we can think of it like that. But I think taming the wild horse, or learning to ride the wild horse, or with our back to the body poem, when we notice what we want, we have the opportunity to reflect on it as it's rising up into our awareness. And last week I said, we don't have to buy into and act upon all our wants. We might welcome them because it's good to acknowledge that they're there. But if we're in partner engagement with someone, we can honestly reflect for ourselves, or make it a practice and a game with the other, to notice for a moment, obviously not to be robotic, but who's doing. If I'm serving my partner and I'm giving the touch, then I'm doing. And in this moment, who is it for? And if it's that I want to touch a certain place or do a certain thing, then communicating that with our partner, can I, and then we'd be in taking. So we're doing, but it's for us. Or am I doing and it's for them? And I'm still the doer in both of those. So there's some very fun and useful practices which pick apart the roles of giving and receiving with the one doing. Because if I want to give Pete a gift of access to my orange tree because I'm on holiday, I might say, Pete, feel free to come round and harvest the oranges. I'm not going to be here. So he's doing the doing, but it's for him. So sometimes we're doing and we're taking, and it's for us. So the old notion of giving and receiving falls down when we are receiving, but we're doing. It tends to fall down. So I'd like to open it to others and your experience of relationship and this principle of being present to the other. In a session sense, sometimes if I feel that the person I'm working with isn't fully there in that open space of knowing that it's for them, I'll ask them, how do these statements sound to you? So you could feel into them now, everybody. Imagining that your partner or someone's invited you into a space that's really for you. And then if you're into feeling in, there's nowhere you need to go. This time is for you. And my presence is in service of your happiest, healthiest evolution of self, whatever word you want. And you can see if they're in resonance to that, or it's not really true for them. And then that presents an inquiry as to, well, what conditions and how can we arrive at, you could say, a nervous system state or a co-regulation where that really is true in every cell of your body. So that can also be fun with a lover and partner, to create the conditions between you where for a while in the fun and lovemaking or whatever you're doing, that you've arrived in this place of clarity in the body, and create the flavor of container that you both want to co-create. So that's where I think that can lead the inquiry that I shared earlier and what you've shared. And I'd love to hear from other people, Lucy, Martin, Anna, Anel, Roloff, Joao, Ling, and Mariana. Anyone inspired to share something?
I'll say something.
Hey.
So it was really interesting when you Pete were sharing about this subject of the wild horse, and in a way I was kind of in my mind expecting you to use the word tame, but you didn't use it, and I was, wow, that's
Oh,
cute.
no, we don't want to tame it.
Yeah, because as you were sharing this, one history came to me of in one of the retreats that we had, a Sangha retreat, where I shared that I was afraid to go on my wild side, where kind of the anger lives also, and you know me very well of being very weak in the past, and I was a lot on that side. And I always felt that I had to tame the wild side, the anger, the frustration, and all of that. And as you were saying, and the way I got it, it was like it's to embrace the wild horse, and the wild horse has a wild side, but also has the caring side, the loving side. And it's not about choosing one or the other, and it's not about finding wearing the middle ground. It's embracing both poles in here.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been noticing a lot more that by not trying to force anything in here, I can be much more present because I'm not trying to control. And sometimes I need to be wild. Sometimes that wildness comes with the assertiveness, the leading, and yeah, I'm discovering a lot more about myself, and it feels much more complete because I'm not demanding something and I'm not trying to control anything in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it feels so much free and so much freedom in that moment, as I am with other people. Yeah. Not just with other people, but also with myself. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also feeling into what's the right orientation for you or for anyone as an individual. Because when you said, yeah, no, ultimately what we want to be able to embody is no strategies, no fear, no control, to be able to surrender. But it might take a process of adaptation, it usually does, to get there. So, for example, I think for men, most men are addicted to ejaculation, and most men when they get into a sexual occasion with a woman, or a release or ejaculation. And as I was saying, that's an incredibly powerful drive. I mean, that's the drive that's procreating this species here. So it might mean that for a period of time, I mean, as you know, there's men who've been part of the work we've been doing who've been celibate for some time because they consciously wanted to not, break this addictive cycle. Or it might mean if we are in a love relationship that we might have to apply some strategic control, or so that we can override that that impulse. But it's a very delicate process because, of course, we don't want to tie ourselves in knots and not be available to our partner. So how do we work with readapting our energetic circuits, and our patterning? Sometimes it might mean we do have to tame the wild horse a bit, and that might be appropriate. Or there might be other people who are so suppressed in their sexuality that they need to just let the wild horse rip, and maybe allow themselves to just, you know, not worry about it for a while, you know. And but I think the challenge with all of this, and I'm obviously talking mainly from the men's perspective here, is and it's also why it's so important to be in communication with their partner, is of course we want to stay in loving connection and intimacy. We don't want to be there in the sexual occasion with our partner. You're mostly preoccupied with, oh, need to tame the horse now, or do you know what I mean? We don't want to be self-focused, because then we're not in love communion. So it's a yoga. It's really a yoga. It's a practice. It's a moment by moment feeling into, how do I find the doorway to that deeper surrender?
Pete, I'd love to invite, if can I share your tentative invite to the festival this and my experience of the last one. I would love to invite some women to share on the theme. I was at Being Gathering a few years ago, and I saw a presentation on Tantra and Tao. I don't know who the presenter was. And they were talking about Taoist practices in a way of keeping oneself separate, and talking about taming the wild horse from their lover and their partner. And I felt it was not healthy. It was sort of demonizing women for drawing and luring out the arousal and ejaculation of men. But on the notion of being in partnership, if those present have experience of potentially being with a man in a heteronormative way, and it can be a battle for men to try to tame their arousal in the presence of their partner. And there's a lot of beautiful work and writing that's gone on about how to take that as the focal point, take that away as the focal point, and build intimacy and presence. And so many times that lending itself to much more satisfaction than how long people last, and whether they're in control and grasp of their arousal, and what we could term ejaculatory choice. And for the lovemaking and our practice of Tantra to be reduced to this, which it is in many occasions, feels very sad for me. I support men well, I can go into my approach to supporting men, but I'd just love to hear from some women if people would care to share on this or anything else. It doesn't have to be what I've suggested, but it would be interesting, people's experience of being impacted by this taming or non-taming of this wild horse that Joao and Pete have spoken about.
Hi, I really enjoyed that. Anel, I really enjoyed what you're saying about the raw energy. And certainly I feel in myself, I probably was more in touch with that rawness growing up and in my life. And I think for me, what I had to do was kind of bring it back. It's like, okay, well, what's my base level? What's my starting point? And when I encountered the wheel of consent, I kind of got a big aha. You know, it was quite contrived in some ways. You know, I'm learning sort of like 4 different quadrants and where I'm fitting on this on these quadrants, and how I'm responding. And I remember when I was first trying it out with a partner, and it was quite messy and contrived and sort of kind of a bit clunky and a bit boring, actually. But I sort of like persisted with it because I felt like what I needed to do was just reset. You know, the wildness is there, but it kind of, I don't know, I just felt like I needed to come right back and learn super basics again, you know.
Could you give an example of the wheel of consent, just for because I'm not that familiar with it, but just so we get a sense of it.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to get something.
Mm.
Okay, this actually lives on my fridge, and a good friend actually put it together. And there are 4 quadrants: serving, taking, allowing, and accepting. I won't give you a lecture on it, but basically what I found was this, because they work in diagonals, and I found that taking and the allowing were really, really fascinating for me, because I was really used to serving and accepting, you know, in that wild sense. I sort of felt like I know that territory. I know what it's like to be, you know, to be in the accepting role, or to feel like I'm serving the situation in the wildness, you know. And then of course just being completely unbidden, you know, and going for it. I knew that, but somehow, like, something that was really for me, like really learning to take for myself, and somebody else really allowing me to take, gave me access to more, like much more kind of wildness in terms of my desire. Like, well, what really is my desire? Because I think for me, and for many women, I would say, and probably many men, I think we are very often using our eyes to look at the other one, and to try and modify our behavior or our desires to fit, you know, like, do they like this? Is this okay? You know, is it kind of, is it working for them? And I think for me in the taking role, to really just, or even be blindfolded, you know, to be sort of like within my own realm of desire and what I want, kind of gave me a different sort of access, almost like a more earthy, grounded access, you know, from the up, in a sense. Yeah, I'm sure I have more to say, but that for now.
That's very interesting.
Thank you.
There's 2 things that were just striking me about that. Well, the first is in allowing yourself just to take, and that being completely okay and given the green light. Because I think perhaps, I do think more so for women than men, there's a taboo around fully embracing and yeah, well, allowing, you know, allowing yourself to be given to, let's say, but also opening to the depth of your own capacity for ecstasy and bliss and pleasure, which is far greater than I think most men and women know, you know, conventionally. And so I think there's that. I think that's what touched me and what you shared. But also it was interesting how you said, you know, you were more attuned or comfortable with this, with the giving, receiving, or whatever the words were. And it struck me that that's kind of in the dynamic of relating, you know, like, as you said, our eyes are more on the other, and like, are you liking this? Is it going well? And so feeling how, while of course we want to care for our lover, we want to, you know, be on target, so to speak, how even that kind of concern can end up inhibiting to some degree a completely ecstatic and natural flow where we're not even worrying about that. You know, there's no self in here who's trying to be a good lover. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, Pete, these practices, I've been part of many of these workshops. I would love to share that when I've watched and witnessed people go into taking, excuse me, firstly, it's very vulnerable to admit what we want in life. So what shows up in these quadrants of the wheel, I find so beneficial to myself, to others, to people in workshops. And to come into that taking quadrant for men and women, or whichever expression of the dance of the Shiva and Shakti we express and embody. To go there is deeply vulnerable. And Betty says, we don't tend to ask for what we want or go for what we want. We go for what we think would be acceptable. And so it's like what Lucy said, we're either with eye contact checking out, or we're pruning the bush of desires to be an acceptable topiary rather than the wild side. And then the other thing I wanted to share is when people go into true taking with full permission, the gift there is the gift of access. And if you sit down on a chair and say, I'd love to play a game with you, darling, would you like to touch me? You can set your limits and boundaries. I don't want this, I don't want that. But when there's a clear container, the depth, the pleasure, and the grace that I've seen, people don't tend to be going, rah, their heart opens with the gift of access, because they realize that they're being given a gift. And every occurrence of that I've seen looks like a ritual temple that I've also facilitated, but effortlessly, because everyone's so grateful for this gift of access to this other person that the kind of touch is slowed down. It looks like they're worshipping the other, and there's this beautiful sense of reverence and beauty every time that I've seen that in workshops. So we might think, and as Joao said earlier, I don't know if it relates to his experience, but we think that this wildness, if allowed to be and to take from the other, if we feel the gratitude and the grace of the gift of access to, if we're straight and we're a man and it's a woman's body, the touch that I've seen happen is so beautiful to watch. And that we are opening up our direct route to bliss, the divine, even touching the hand, even touching the face, the hair, smelling someone's hair, the little gestures that happen in that energy of it. To me, it's all seen like reverence. And I find that so beautiful. So that's when, and then we can practice and push at, okay, what more would I want? And where is the other person's limit? And it can come into a conversation. But with the clarity of the container, if you're just practicing with the hands, I've seen such beautiful taking, eroticism, arousal, grace, presence. So yeah, I'm a big advocate of practicing with the wheel, taking apart the doing and who's it for, and then let it all magnetize back in, and not to live it as a rule book, but as a spiritual practice.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, can I just add something to that as well, Julian? One of the very first practices we ever learned with the wheel was waking hands. And I think the hands are often tools that we use that kind of grasp at things, or they, you know, we can be very conditioned through our hands. But actually, in waking up the hands and giving them more sensation and more consciousness, in a sense, or more awareness, it's like another access to sensation and to intimacy, I find, because things then, they really slow down and the touch becomes so refined. And I think when we're talking about wildness, we're often talking about being taken or taking, or, you know, but it's not in the sense that we're talking around the wheel, but that sense of being taken is there's a rawness and a wildness in that. But often, in my experience, it you know, it can be fantastic and ecstatic. But to bring that ecstasy back into something that almost has so little movement in it is quite profound. It's like, wow, we're really moving energy here. You know, we're without needing to use language that's cosmic or anything. It's just like, wow, just a tiny touch, almost like do less. I remember doing clowning with somebody, and she said, do less. And I remember just like, do less, okay. And then do less. And the instruction was just do less.
Mm.
And
Less
the
is more.
point that refinement became so alive, you know, there was so much to experience in that kind of almost nothing something, you know.
Mm.
Mm.
Beautiful.
Yeah, very interesting. Beautiful.
Mm.
You know, I'm a guitar player, and the image that came to me is when you were saying less, do less, less is more. You know, how like so many guitarists, they just want to fill up the space and play really fast, you know, and I always notice less is more, you know. BB King, man, it was like just 3 or 4 notes,
Mm.
you know. But nobody, you know, it touches you in a way that a lot of these other technical geniuses don't, you know. So just that's just what came to my mind. But yeah, it's getting beyond this kind of all the ways we're conditioned and attached to stimulation, you know, and yeah.
You going to say something, Martin?
Yeah. Well, welcome, Annabelle.
Welcome, Annabella. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that when we talk about sort of raw sexual energy and wild and so on, and even talk about sexual energy as a horse. I mean, the horse thing, as far as I know, comes from Freud. It can relate to the ego and the id, to the rider and the horse. I got an idea that that's quite a masculine notion of sexual energy. And, you know, it's all about going for it and intensity and raw. There's a sense of sort of penetrative, aggressive aliveness. And that's kind of, we almost take that, well, that's clearly what raw, you know, authentic sexual energy is. But I think that's a very masculine notion of it. I think some women, I'm daring to try and speak from my experience of working with women as a therapist for nearly 40 years, the raw wildness is much more of a soft opening than a wild horse that's probably charging somewhere.
Mm.
And the whole spiritual world and the tantric world is kind of shot through notions that are really written from men's point of view.
Mm.
So that's one thing.
Yeah.
On all of
Yeah, I
this.
just want to say I totally agree. And when I use that metaphor, it's mainly been in my work with men, as I mentioned. But yeah, totally resonate with that.
Thanks, Martin.
And yes, it's also valid to say in working with men that like men have also been really held back, you know, societally, and to have a space, like you were saying earlier, to have a space where they can really let go is probably really powerful. But then how we bring that into relation, you know, or the masculine feminine relationship is quite an interesting sort of meeting point.
Yeah, I had a client recently, well, 6 months ago, he came, very good looking guy, very, very high power, well, very good money and good looks, and a beautiful partner who I'd been working with, and she referred him to come to me, and he said, my partner's asked me to embody the dark masculine. I don't even know what that is. And bless him, he felt deflated and like, I really want to give her this, you know, I want to ravage her with the dark masculine. And we did a session, an intake session. There wasn't any touch or very much practice. There was some body poem. And as he was leaving, he said, he said, can I bring my partner next week? And I said, well, we haven't done anything yet. I mean, that's really lovely that you're enthusiastic to bring her next week. Anyway, as he was leaving and we had booked another session, he said, have you got any hints for how I could step towards this dark masculine that I've got no idea? And I said, how about inviting her to assume her favorite position and have you take with your hands? This person was experiencing early ejaculation. And I said, and forgetting what's happening with your lingam, just go into the touch and take. And that was transformative for them, that one simple thing. So whether he was, whatever that means, the full embodiment of the horse riding dark masculine, if it's that, whatever that meant, it was a profound step towards being in that vulnerability of what do I want, how do I want to touch, and taking it, and then her feeling his desire. So that's a gift for, I think this work that Martin and others here do with couples and individuals, men and women, whatever, is a real lifeline to what you just expressed, Lucy, for this. There's a fear in many men. And when I did the sexological bodywork training, I realized in the first year that I carried this fear of the misuse of power of all men, like this patriarchal. I uncovered it in the first year of that training in the self practices that we were doing. I revealed it. And then in the second year, I feel that I integrated it and realized and was able to separate, okay, this is a embodied template or contraction that I don't want me and my lingam to be perceived as a doing, taking weapon, or my masculinity and my just presence as a white middle-class male, whatever, all the layers of identity. And I decoupled that and realized that's not how I use my body and not what I'm here to do, and was able to put it down. So I think it's really important to give space, and there are probably not enough healthy spaces for men to do that. And at the same time, I also, maybe like Martin, work a lot more with women than men, actually. And that was this topic of the first call, where we touched upon what do we feel we want in relationship, and this kind of consumerism of making a tick list and then trying to find the person that will meet all these wants, or what do we want to give and co-create. And it's a much different kind of take on what are we bringing if we're looking to be in coupled relationship. So yeah, how we support each other to bring forth our vulnerabilities and authenticity so that we can have a more harmoniously attuned intimacy. Yeah. And I'm working with this guy. I worked with him again recently. He had this drive to experience ecstasy. Started with like early ejaculation, learned how to cultivate ejaculatory choice, and then wanted longer and more and full body orgasms. And we did some practice together last week, I think it was, or the week before, and they were able in one session of self-touch to establish and confirm that they were experiencing bliss in the body. And I made a joke of saying, is bliss not enough? And that they found that funny. And then journeying with some other practices up into ecstasy for a while, but returning to bliss and keep coming back to bliss. And then the self-practice that they were exploring is becoming a gift and a nourishment and an affirmation of love, rather than a gendered riding of the horse into some ecstatic fantasy of fulfillment, you know. So that's the main slant or invitation, because if people don't want to move towards that kind of experience in my work, we're not forcing people to or seducing people towards an agenda. But if that sounds curious and inviting for people, I find that that's not a position that many men have ever considered, that slowing down and being in bliss and sharing that bliss in of their own body being and then with another might be something worth exploring. So yeah. Roloff, Annabella, any
Anna.
and Anna, yeah. Care to chime in with it?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, we've gone so many different places that it's even hard to choose. But I resonated a lot with this sharing Lucy brought in the beginning, and it was actually the first thing that came when you shared, Julian, is how much as women were conditioned to give and to be in service and to be looking to the other. So when you shared that you disentangle that from the partner relationship. Yeah, I felt there's a logic in that, because there's so much, even to an unconscious level, I feel, even when I feel I'm not looking for the other or trying to please the other, there's still levels to go, to let go of that fully, and to be fully just available. I feel it's a very deep conditioning to please, to be in that, to be looking to the other. So I was very curious about that taking, because I feel I'm also more on the line of serving, and I don't remember the words exactly, but I feel
Accept, yeah.
Yeah, I feel that the taking is also more challenging for me, and it feels, yeah, it's interesting. I feel I've experienced also a difference when I'm blindfolded, for instance. I feel there's a more, I go deeper into relaxing and receiving, but not so, because I'm not seeing. I feel it's easier
Yeah.
with not seeing. It brings something, definitely. But yeah, a lot was coming to me in relationship to all of this, and to, I also feel, for me as a woman, I relate a lot with that slowing down as being an important part of the intimacy itself. And but I also see a lot of my driving to get somewhere, and I don't even know if it's to, I feel there's a part of that has to do again with pleasing the other. There's something to get to, and I have to make an effort to let go of the mind and of the story, and just be in the body, and communicate more about this need to slow down, or how I experience more when things are slower. For me, there's more depthness when things are slower. So, but it's not a rule. It's just a more recent observation. So yeah, I feel there's so much in this topic. There's a lot to do with communication, a lot to do with self-awareness, a lot to do with just being more in the body, I think. And just, this week I've also been experiencing just more within myself, just the pleasure of sensations in the body, just between me and me. And that itself is a discovery. And there's such a richness in just connecting with the sensations in the body, just between me and me. And I'm not even talking about any sexual, no, just sensations.
Yeah.
And just that self-discovery, I feel it can bring a lot then when we come together in relationship, because I'm more connected with this material thing and less entangled with my whatever conditioning mind stuff that might come.
Yeah.
And the other thing that came to me was, yeah, it's interesting, this taking, receiving, giving to the other. For me, sometimes it's not easy to say, because like you were saying, the taking or the, I feel sometimes it's difficult to separate where you start, because it's ideally, I think, at some point, the wheel of giving and receiving is so complete that you cannot say, oh, I'm taking and the other is, I feel most of the time, or sometimes, there's no I'm taking, the other is just receiving. There's
partner engagement, the giving and receiving are mixed for sure. And you could also consciously intend to practice take. And a lovely practice can be, for all of us, but many times for women, in my experience, being given the opportunity to tune into, like you said, subtle sensations. You can do it with the breath. As I breathe, where in the inhalation and exhalation, where is, and there's a book that I've got, which I hope went to print because I've got a draft copy of this book called Breathing is Bliss or something. And it talks about where in your breath cycle is most pleasant. And if I bring more awareness there, like if we pay more attention to phenomenon, they grow. Can that pleasantness of that part of the breath that I keep returning to turn into pleasure? And Betty uses a similar thing with waking up the hands and feeling. And usually, this is a photographic blower, it's not something else. As we slow down, usually the pleasure sensation increases. So that makes sense with what you're saying. And often if we're massage therapists or we're very serving as mothers or fathers, our hands are used to doing things, practical tasks. And often we're using the motor neurology rather than the inbound sensory neurology to sense and notice. And at university, my bodywork teacher said, if you walk over to a table and pick up a bag of sugar, you'll do it in a certain way. If you go and pick up a newborn baby, you will be you'll go over there with your motor component, just pick up the bag of sugar and take it to wherever it was going to go. But if it's a baby, you'll be all your sensory architecture and wisdom will be switched on to cup the hands to the baby and lift it in a very different way, which is beautiful. And if you create a container for someone, yourself, to tune into what do I really want on a sensation way, touching yourself, touching your own skin, touching another person, touching an object, this seems overly simple. And coming with a degree in bodywork to Betty's workshop in 2015, I thought this is just overly simple. This isn't going to be, there's nothing in this for me. This is ridiculous. But I had dewy hands. I had hands that were used to doing techniques. So dropping into it and being honest with, whoa, actually waking up that sensory nerves. And then what do I want to touch on my partner? Then we have to take responsibility, as we've said before, for our own desires, and we give permission to following what feels good. Wow. And we've got this gift of access, and that's a new type of alchemy, which I see the wheel gives us. But we can be in give, receive. That's normal in partnered intimacy. And we can sit opposite the other person, be stroking and touching, and both be in take, where we're taking responsibility fully for going for what feels good for us. And that can be beautiful too. So just to bring some of the practices that are possible, and to echo what you're saying about slowing down. And as we slow down, there's such sensation. Philip Shepherd in his workshops gets people to lie on the floor and lift their arm up. But you lie down, you bring your full presence to your arm, and you slowly lift it off the ground. And for me, it felt like an egg timer of sand trickling down my arm. It was orgasmic. All I was doing was lifting my arm off the floor, lay on my back and lifting it up through gravity. It felt so good when you brought your full presence to it. It was mind-blowing. So yeah, I think waking up the body, to me, this is in service of embodiment. And there's interoception and proprioception and a whole load of ceptions, which are new scientific names to different senses that we have. Rather than the old-fashioned chosen 5 senses were defined that there's a sensor on the inside that measures something measurable that's coming from the outside. All about our intuition. Where's that coming from? And the mystery of our fascia, which is this amazingly quick communication medium, faster than the nerves, which is giving us this felt sense. So that's why, yeah, and being in presence to other people awakening that is, for me, completely addictive and beautiful. And all fear goes away, all agendas and other time goes away in service of that. So it was to that we were pointing at the beginning of the call of, this is a practice in sexological bodywork, wheel of consent coaching and tantra and other things. And how can we harvest that goodness and share it with our partners in an intimate way? So yeah, we're approaching the half hour past, and thank you everyone for sharing. Are there any further shares or questions or comments?
Yeah, I'd like to make one comment. I mean, you're saying about all this thing, all this, everything kind of go away. That's the kind of end point of this all, is more the non-dual end. Beyond the I want, I don't want, and I'm giving and I'm taking, and I'm allowing. There's too many I's in there. You know, you get to a state through the body where there's just the emptiness or the spaciousness. The I itself isn't there, whether the giving or receiving or wanting or not wanting or taking or in the end, the I is the problem, but you can't. You can only get there indirectly. You can't lift yourself up by your own bootstraps. So it's just to recognize that this is a practice on the way to emptiness and spaciousness.
Surrender.
There isn't an I to do any of this stuff that we've been talking about the last hour and a bit.
Yeah. I agree. And like in Yoga Nidra, when you squeeze all the muscles to then let them go, I feel that some of these practices that we do are to exercise something so that we can let it go. The deep Yoga Nidra, the yogic sleep, you know, when you systematically squeeze the whole body and then let it go, I feel, yeah, I love what you shared, Martin, because for me, some of these practices are like the squeezing, and there's good in the squeezing, and ultimately it lets us let them go into some kind of surrender or integration where there's, emptiness, stillness, and no I, which Pete and I were also talking about, the surrendering of the ego. When enough things have been squeezed that we can surrender and be really present in love, we become love. I did a podcast with my Kung Fu teacher last week, and at the end of the podcast, he says, the challenge is not to strive for love, but to become love, and then death is irrelevant, he said. That was how he closed the podcast. I was like, awesome. Yeah.
Brilliant.
I just want to share. I love, Martin, what you shared. That's very beautiful. And I feel also that there is this whole journey of our humanity to come to that state or to remember, you know. But on another side, I also feel that it's so important to remember to feel fulfilled along the way and to come back to joy. And to me personally, I feel that, you know, I've gone through so much struggle in my life and all that stuff. Like, now I really want to enjoy this life in this, you know, human experience, but having the spirit embodied within me and see what it means to be alive. And I noticed the more I work with healing the trauma, and the more I'm kind of like landing in my body, then my sensation changes. And I can compare, like, I used to have this sensual sensations, when now I'm realizing they were really ungrounded because it was somewhere there, you know. And now I have more moments when I really feel fully present in my body, and then the sensations become really alive. There is joy I can feel all around me, and there is this almost like this ecstatic sensations just by being in the present moment. And like, for me, like, I feel that I think we still need to go through the stages of our soul evolution, of the integration of our soul into our body. And it's, I think it's important to remember that in the end, we allow to enjoy this journey, have experience bliss and ecstasy, and support others along the way, whichever way we feel it gives us fulfillment. So yeah.
Well,
but that's beautiful. A reminder.
Just to respond to just to respond to what Martin and yourself just brought there. Yeah, my experience, it's really embracing this paradox, which I sometimes express as the path and the goal are one. And so I really appreciated, Martin, when you were bringing just the the always already present non-dual truth that there is actually no I here, and there never has been. That is the absolute truth of who we are, our true nature. And then as he was speaking, I thought of the word ecstasy, which actually means ecstatic. It means to stand outside of what? The self.
Mm.
So ecstasy, most people, when they think of ecstasy, they think of an intensely pleasurable experience, but in its true meaning, it's not that. It's actually just being so surrendered that we're no longer an I trying to do anything or have any particular experience. But then, as you're saying, at the same time, there's all the layers of patterning and conditioning, and there's a path, you could say, of becoming more transparent to that true nature, and when we can finally let go of being an I who's doing anything at all. And I think it's a part of what I feel is of living an awakened life, is to be able to hold that paradox in one's own being. So I'm already full and free, and there's no problem. And it's perfectly possible to let go completely right now. And, oh, this is coming up, or I'm still contracted here. You see what I mean? And then we can embrace both sides of the coin. And I feel when we're able to brace both sides of the coin, it actually speeds up, you could say, the process of integration and awakening, because we're not spiritually bypassing on one hand, or on the other hand, we're not getting too overly fascinated and focused on strategies and techniques and improving ourselves.
Yeah, thank you, Pete. There's something there about receptivity and striving for a neutral. If we cultivate an inner peace and calm, and for us that's a very comfortable and beautiful place to be. I think it's beautiful to witness the joy, the excitement of others, and be receptive and touched by it when our default state might be, after some practices, quite a seemingly neutral Zen place. Yeah, I sense a stability in you, Martin. The times that I've met you in person, you seem, every time I've met you, and tonight, you seem to have this calm, and I don't feel that's in denial of other people's, or Anel's description and sharing. Yet some people try to be calm like Martin, and then they're bridling and suppressing, and that's a shame. But it's the difference for me is being in our naturalness, and and being in the presence of others, which we were with the poem. I would love to invite a closing mini ritual of sharing what's alive for you right now in your body. So in the language of body poem, it would be, rather than trying to intellectualize that state, finding words that come close to describing what you're noticing inside right now, which might be more of a sound or a quality. And you can unmute and speak it, or if you prefer, type it in the chat. And it can be interesting in any relationship or practice to tune into. A colleague of mine called it a somatic snapshot, as if you could take a Polaroid picture of your inner state and go, ooh, to anchor and remember it, which I didn't invite or prompt people to do at the beginning. But the words that you shared as you came into this call, maybe you can remember them, and maybe your inner state physiological and awareness state has shifted in some way, and you might notice a change or not. And there might be words that come close to describing that change or shift, or there might simply be nothing, nothing to report.
Bright house.
Right house.
Bright.
Bright house.
Bright house.
Orangey.
Don't know if I've spelled that right.
Yeah.
Gratitude for sharings, orangey, bright house.
Extraordinary, but extra, if hyphen, ordinary.
Extraordinary, orangey, bright house.
Just relaxed.
Just relaxed. Extraordinary, orangey, gratitude for sharings, bright house.
Slow burning.
Slow burning, be alive.
Smiley.
Be alive. Extraordinary, be orangey, be smiley. Gratitude, orangey gratitude, just relaxed, be alive. Slow burning orangery. Conscious, smiley, slow burning, alive, just relaxed, extraordinary, orangey, bright
Giggly.
house. Giggly. Conscious was shared to me privately, so I'll put it in the group chat. Sometimes we type not to everyone. Conscious. Conscious, smiley, giggly, alive, extraordinary, orangey, bright house. Giggly, conscious, bright house. Slow burning, orangey, be alive, be smiley, be conscious, be giggly, be extraordinary, just relaxed. Bright house, gratitude for sharings. Slow burning, smiley, conscious, giggly, just relaxed, extraordinary, orangery.
Slowly enough to be felt.
Glowing enough to be felt, or flowing?
Slowly or slowing.
Ah,
Slowly enough to be felt.
slowly enough to be felt. Slow burning, slowly enough to be felt. Conscious, giggly, smiley, bright house. Alive, just relaxed. Extraordinary. Gratitude, bright, orangery, alive, burning, smiley, conscious, giggly, and slow enough to be felt. Any last bubblings in the body, mind?
Contagiously happy.
Contagiously happy, slow burning, smiley, conscious, giggly, slowly enough to be felt. Extraordinary. Gratitude, bright house. Orangey, extraordinary, just relaxed, alive, smiley, conscious, giggly, slow enough to be felt. Contagiously happy. giggly, smiley, burning alive, relaxed, extraordinary, gratitude, bright house,
Pleasure dome.
leisure dome. And if this poem, community body poem, had a title, and your embodied experience of this evening had a title, what would the title of this body poem be?
I think Pleasure Dome would be the title.
Yeah.
Ravaging love.
Forever
Ravaging love.
ravaging love. Any other titles that want to be heard? Going once, going twice, ravaging love.
Well, the words that come, really don't know why, but a nice rub.
Ooh.
A nice rub. Mm.
I just feel like we've rubbed up against each other. It's been really nice. Good to have a rub, you know, a rub.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you for a nice rub. The ravaging love, the pleasure.
Yeah,
dome.
thanks for the rub, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for the rub, everyone.
The rub.
So Pete will be back next week on this same Zoom code, but I'll be in Ireland on a Eslan massage training, which will be fun. And then we'll both be back the week after, but we're going to continue these. We're going to invite some different people. You're all invited back. We'll be running them until the 21st of March. On the 28th of March is our retreat. So we'll be off mobile phones and off Wi-Fi and all these kind of things for 5 days. And Pete and I have yet to decide whether we continue them out the other side of the Shakti Shiva dance.
Oh, I'm sure we will.
Well, we like a good rub. Cool.
Where's your retreat going to be?
Mont Mariposa Retreat Center. I don't know if you know it, in the Algarve. We're
Near
in
Tavira.
Yeah, near Tavira, near the eastern Algarve. It's in a valley. The room we're using is a temple valley. It's like Bali or something. It's all wooden pillars and beautiful wooden floors and voiles and an outside kitchen with oranges and yucca plants. And we're all sleeping in different cabins. It's quite rustic and idyllic, actually.
It's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Anel might be there. Rolof's not going to be there, but hopefully Anel in tonight's call will be coming. Yeah. Yeah, we've got some body poets coming, Lucy, as supporting, co-facilitating team. So if you want to be one of them, message me and come.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you all for our Pleasure Dome ravaging love. Nice rub.
Yeah, thank you all very much. It's been a total joy to be with you all. And I liked the metaphor of the nice rub. Yeah, it definitely feels like it's amazing, even, you know, just being here. We are online. I said bright house because I just was seeing all the boxes and I felt like we were all like radiating. But I feel like our subtle energy bodies have, even if our physical bodies can't actually make contact, we've definitely been some interpenetration and rubbing going on.
I'd say our physical bodies have been touched because the state changes.
Of course, yeah.
Internal shifts.
Yeah.
During the COVID years, Lucy and I and others were doing lots of body poem and getting a lot of body work done without any touch. So I think thanks to whatever that was for the attunement and refinement of working through screens to do body work. So yeah,
it's amazing.
Lots of love to you all and hope to see you next week or the week after. Same Zoom code and different felt senses.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for coming.